Can you tell me just a bit about what you teach and as well what advice you might have for students around how lecturers can support students?
Hi, Sue. Lovely to be here with you today. So I teach in School of Health Sciences in the Waterford campus, and teach on a master's program, which is off-site. So our students go to a venue in Dublin, and it's a blended program. So we meet once a month, and then we are online in between blocks. So deal with a lot of adults who come back into education after having quite a break. Some people are coming having had degrees, others are coming with very little experience but have a real passion for the subject area that we're involved with. So we get all types of learners on the programme.
How can lecturers in particular provide support to students throughout
Uh,
their course?
yeah, well, I think for adult learners in particular coming back, I think lecturers who teach that type of group really understand how important it is to build a relationship and to have dialogue with those students, and for students to recognize that we are human and we can be busy, but we are there to support them to thrive and flourish in their education. So um, it takes time to get to know people,
Hmm.
granted, but I think it's really important to show up and to listen to our students. I think that's one of the things that's so important, and really read the signs when maybe people are a little stressed. So I think it's a little catchphrase, but the just ask, I think, is a really useful one. Just ask a staff member. And I appreciate if students aren't on site all of the time and they're at home, getting a bit stressed about something, it's always useful to drop an email, either to other peers on the course who might be able to help. But if that's not supporting them, drop an email to the lecturer, and we get back to you as soon as we can. And sometimes I know in some situations it might be an invitation to have a quick chat over a
Hmm.
Zoom call or a Teams call. If it is a complex situation that they might need a bit of support on, course leaders, staff would be open to that in certain situations.
Okay, so there is channels of communication there, even though you're not in the traditional kind of face-to-face environment every day. There's other options for building that kind
Yeah.
of, like you say, building the relationship.
Of course, yeah. And if we're not hearing from students, we'll assume everything's okay. So if a student is struggling, it's really important, to let us know, and we'll hopefully be able to put them on the right path fairly quickly. Even if it's something as simple as having an issue with my Moodle, it could be something they don't feel comfortable asking Moodle. If they ask a staff member, they could provide a link straight away to get them sorted. So I think something as simple as that would be important. Just ask. Yeah.
Brilliant. And is there any particular, again, like you say, you're dealing with a particular cohort of people who are probably working, studying part-time. Are there particular kind of obstacles that they tend to encounter that might be different, say, that like again from our full-time face-to-face students?
I think a big main obstacle would be navigating the virtual learning environments and availing of the supports. A lot of blended learners or offsite learners don't realize how much is actually on our website. And one piece of advice I would give any adult learner is sit down on a computer. Take your time to navigate the website. Your course will give you a handbook and tips. Sit down with a cup of coffee. Don't make it to be a stressful experience. Just say, I'm going to just play with the website here. I can't delete
Mhm,
anything.
mhm. Yeah,
And even doing over coffee with a friend, and doing it nice and slowly, I think it would be a beginning point. Like a lot of people, it's only until you need something that you might go look for it. So go back to your handbook, the course handbook, go back to the module descriptors. A lot of courses now will have a group chat set up somewhere, you
okay.
know. We encourage our students, to set up their own informal WhatsApp group, so they could say, oh, anyone know where to find blah blah blah, and that way then there's a lot of peer support happening as well. But if you are the type of learner that needs to contact the staff member, I would say contact them by email. Just bear in mind, staff are busy. They might miss an email. My inbox gets full very quick. So I would say if you don't hear from staff in a day or so, I'd say 2 days. Just drop an email back saying, just wondering, you might have missed my email. I appreciate how busy you are. Staff sometimes forget, or they say, I'll come back to it, and then the day runs away from them. So it's not that they didn't think you were important. It's that they're just busy, and they might just need a gentle reminder or nudge to get back to you.
Absolutely. And I think as well, I suppose there's so many different supports available. And sometimes, like you say, if you're not on site every day, you mightn't kind of be sure who to go to in which instance.
Yeah.
And that's part of, I suppose, what we're trying to do with this program, with the help, is we've kind of tried to collate the main things together, bring them together, so that as a first port of call, if you kind of think, maybe my lecturer isn't the one to ask about Moodle or whatever, who should I be talking to? You should hopefully be able to get the right person there. So we've kind of tried to pick out the key bits, especially for learners who are lifelong learners or part-time or online, to be able to dip in kind of quickly to get the bits that they need and jump out then to the bigger resources that are there.
Yeah, and Sue, can I just say, like, the team that are in the library, that are in computer services, that are in the virtual learning environments, they are amazing. They are so good and so kind to students when they contact them, and yes, they can, might miss things too, but they have been a great support to my students in the past when they have hit a bump in the road with some technical stuff that is not my remit. And they're able to sort it with them. So yeah, that it's brilliant that you're talking about that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole network there of people to support you. There will be someone to answer the questions. So yeah, I think that's really good advice. Like you say, just ask. It's so true. And like you say, we don't know that there's an issue unless people link in. So don't be afraid to kind of link in.
Yeah.
As soon, wave the flag as soon as you need to.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know it's cliche. We say there's no such thing as a stupid question, but honestly, when you're coming back into education, there is no stupid question. I know, like the virtual learning environment gets updated. I had to ask a colleague the other day, how do you do something really basic, because it threw me. And it's just it's hard to ask, but it's really important to develop that skill. Everybody needs help. We all need help. So just ask, I think, is simple, but it's effective.
Yeah, and they are great tools, but like that, you don't want the tool, something like the virtual learning environment, to get in the way of why you're there to learn.
Exactly.
So getting those issues sorted, and it is daunting, but it can actually be, once it's overcome, it's actually a great tool once you get the hang of it and get comfortable with it. So it does need a little bit of investment of time, or a little bit of a learning curve, but then
cup of
it really
coffee, sit down, take your time. I think students expect themselves to know something very quickly, and when you're coming back, I would say, give yourself a chance, put a time limit on how much time you'll try and understand. You're not going to get it all in one go. So bit by bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's really good advice. And thanks a million for talking to me today.
You're very welcome, Sue. Thank you.
My name is Rita Grange. I teach on level HDIP and Masters in Supply Chain Management in SETU. I also teach level 6 for CILT. That's the feeder group for the HDIP. Lecturers can support students by, I suppose what we will do is we direct their inquiries. So if it's an academic inquiry, if they're struggling with, say, referencing, we might direct them towards the PACE modules on Blackboard, or some of the many fantastic workshops that the librarians offer, because we are absolutely steeped with the quality of folks that we have in the library who are willing to reach out to students. And I would remind lifelong learners that they are students in SETU. The library is open to them. They're open on Saturdays, except on bank holiday weekends, and they're open late nights as well. So they can come and talk to librarians, get their books, look at past pupil thesis, things like that. So that's academically we can help them. If they're struggling, they need extensions or they need sort of mental health support, we can direct them to where the help is. I won't be able to be much help to them myself personally, but I can direct them towards helplines and folks who are ready, willing and able to help them. So I think that's why we might not be able to offer a lot of help personally. We're pretty good as a group at directing students to where help is.
So it sounds like stay engaged and ask the questions and you'll be able to direct them to the right place.
Help is there.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of lifelong learners would be online learners. Have you any particular advice for people who are learning online?
Try to make the classes live, because you might have a question that you want to ask. And you'll be able to ask it live. Now, always we say follow up. At the end of a class, I'll always say it's recorded, and if you're watching the recording, if you have a question that we haven't covered, just flick me an email and I'll do my best to get back to you, and I may address it next week in class. But if it's live and you want to get it sorted immediately, it's great, it's so much better. So try and get live, but obviously we understand not everybody can. And the other bit of advice I would say, get your WhatsApp group going. Sometimes it can be a bit of a, nearly a full-time job keeping up with your WhatsApp group, but it's a great way to engage with other students. And if you have a question, you can be sure somebody else in that group will also have a question. Somebody might have the answer, but if they don't, at least then you'll know you're not on your own if you want to ask that at the next lecture or to pop it in an email. Get a student rep, stay connected with your other students because they're going through the same thing. And just to remember that lecturers are people too. I went back to full-time education at the ripe old age of 40, and I in SETU, Carlow ITS was, and I graduated there and I got my master's there as well. So a lot of your lifelong lecturers are alumni, and they will remember what it's like being a student and how difficult it is to try and juggle family commitments, work commitments, and this new educational commitment. It is a push on time. This 1 year is going to be difficult. But so worth it. So worth it when you get to graduation.
Yeah. And is there, because that it would be a common pitfall, I think, or a common obstacle, I suppose, for people lifelong learning, juggling all those different things. Is there any particular advice you have, or any, I suppose, obstacles that they should look out for that you could advise on?
For lifelong learners in particular, most of our lifelong learners, I suppose there's two things. The one is the academic. We have a lot of expertise in those classrooms. There's more in the class than there is at the top of the class, that's for sure. But turning those real world examples into academically robust essays, and that's difficult. And people say, well, I do this job every day and I do it really well. Absolutely, I would give you the job, but I cannot maybe give you the mark unless you support your assertions with academic references. So there's that kind of hurdle where they know the thing, but they're not getting the marks because they're not backing it up academically. That's difficult the first time round. And the other thing is time management. We have some fantastic managers in the class, and the hardest thing to manage is your personal time. And that's where we're taking your personal time. It's a bit of a grim message at the beginning of the year, but it is tough. So you need to ask for support. So like you would if you were facing any challenge, if you're the person who supports folks in your family or at work, you need to ask your colleagues to let you out a few minutes early or bang on time, whatever, to make sure that you are where you need to be at 7 o'clock when we start. You can eat your dinner in front of the PC. That's fine, as long as you've got your sound off. But you need to be listening for sure. And your family, if you have family commitments, so you might be thinking, oh, it's just Tuesday, Thursdays, and the occasional Saturday. That's not really true. There's a lot of independent learning. So Mondays and Wednesdays will definitely get roped in. And then towards the end of the year, when you're trying to submit assignments, you may lose a few weekends, full weekends. So I would say ask for support ahead. Let folks know in your life where you normally give the support that you'll need the support this time around. Just for a very intensive 10 months, you're going to need wriggle room and work, wriggle room at home, you know. So that's kind of, I would front load your support if you can. If somebody wants to put their camera on, I'm absolutely happy. It's lovely to look at a face. And I love when they speak during the classes, they put their, come off mute, and if they have a question or whatever, keep an eye on the chat. You can always chat, or you can always email in, and if I don't address it during the week, I'll get back to it at the class.
From the teaching point of view, it's great to get that interaction, especially in an online environment. It can be hard to actually judge, you know, are people keeping up, or has anyone any questions? So I think when people do speak out, it can be really, really, really helpful, because like you said, other people probably have the same questions. So
yeah, and we're missing all those classroom cues of people looking around wondering, is everybody else confused? Or we miss the classroom cues of real you know, on-site interaction.
And the learners miss it as well, that you have that sense of who's sitting beside you. Are they, okay, I'm not the only one. So you have to, I suppose, kind of nearly make that happen a little bit. It doesn't happen as naturally, but if you reach out, like you say, through the WhatsApp groups or putting up your hand in the class or whatever, you know, be brave and be the first one maybe to do it, because others will surely follow.
Absolutely. If you're thinking it, somebody else is thinking it, they're asking the same question in their head, they might not be as brave. So we assume, if we don't get a question, perhaps wrongly, that everybody understands it. And we assume, you know, they're all adults here. No one's going to be afraid to put up their hand. But then, like, every year I do courses myself, I try to keep up with new tech and new learning. And I find myself in the classroom going, oh, I'm embarrassed. I might be the only one who doesn't understand that particular concept. You just have to remember, you know, I'm here to learn. And it's their job to teach me. So I would always say at the end of, or the beginning, if you don't understand something, that's on me. But if you walk out of this classroom or away from this Zoom or this Blackboard lecture without asking the question, that's on you. You have to be an adult, you have to ask.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
And if I can't answer it, we're in trouble. I can always come back next week.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, well, thanks so much, Rita. That's really useful stuff. So really appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks very much.